Welcome back to the Camp Memories podcast from Kramer to the Hill. We are pleased to bring you part two of our three-part conversation with Nili Kosmal, who came to Camp Hess Kramer in the early 1970s and brought her wonderful talent to Israeli dancing and the creation of musical production. In part two, we'll talk about Nili's favorite musical productions. Enjoy.
I had a bima there and I loved it. It was just wonderful. This was my first experience at camp. And for my son, Mickey, it was just heaven. He came and he was free to run and roam around and go anywhere he wants. And in addition, I got, always like two babysitters. I could do my creative work. And besides, of course, doing dance, I started doing dance performances, especially for leadership. I was there the first years. I was there for 10 weeks. It was the whole summer. It was four sessions, and 2 weeks at the end, or 10 days at the end. So it
Neely,
was,
what year was that when you first came to camp?
I think,
Hmm.
1972. And as you know, I was at camp for 18 summers. Coming back and forth, I could not give up camp. I think one year we went to Israel, and I just went for 1 month because I did not want to miss the whole summer. And so it was just part of not only my life, but part of definitely my children's life and Eddie's life as well. I mean, he used to come on the weekend to camp, and he used to take care of the children when I was making productions. I mean, this is one of the things that I did slowly, gradually, after teaching dance for so many. I felt that I needed to expand myself. I wanted to add another medium to my creation. So this is where I started slowly. I think, one of the first one that I did um, was, I think they were just songs from Fiddler on the Roof, just maybe tradition. I think I started with that. And then the year after that, I brought my own creation. And then, as you know, some of you, obviously, Paul, you've been with me for quite a few years, helping me create these wonderful productions that sometime I needed your musical, amazing, talented music that you wrote for me. The song absolutely was the best. Like one of them, as I remember, was Hannah Senesh, that you wrote a whole dance number. I mean, you wrote the music for a dance number that's so meaningful, so emotional, really brought the emotion of the fighting of the partisans fighting in it. So I did it. I was affected by your music, creating my dance as a partisan dance with a group of girls. And this was one of the highlights of the productions that I've done at camp.
Let me ask you this, Neely. I just want to tell you that, of course, as a teenager, when I was collaborating with you, and then as a 20 something, I was growing up as a musician under your influence. And those were really the formative years that I had with you. Um,
Oh, I'm
and
so
and I just have to tell you that as a kid, my training was entirely classical, and I never had any experience with folk music, with, Jewish popular music, with any of this stuff that we did together. And so you brought it to me, and then I thrived in it, if you know what I mean. I just ate it up, and it became formative in developing me into an adult. So I have great gratitude for you and all the gifts you brought me.
thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled by your words. This is the wonderful things that I feel, in my latter days or my latter years after retiring, and still being in contact with some of my campers from the 70s and you. and knowing that I did have an impact. And it obviously, to any teacher, this is the best reward you could think of, that you have touched upon people's life and made it special. This was one of my mission once I decided that I was going to stay in the United States. This is one thing I did not mention, is that once I decided actually to stay, after I graduated from UCLA, I graduated from television producing and directing. I had an internship at Universal Studios, and it is thanks to the Israeli consulate, because they wanted to prepare us to go back to Israel. I had the best contacts there, and I could have gone to the professional TV film industry at that time, but I missed the connection to Judaism, to my art, and this is why I decided to move away from it and to go to the teaching in the United States. Especially, I felt that through my creation, or the composition, in a way, of the productions that I did, I always was concerned about bringing some knowledge to my students, not only knowledge, but feeling and understanding of the connection to tradition, to Judaism, of course, and to Israel. So when I hear that the effect that I had on you, I cannot ask for more than that. As a teacher, educator, it has been wonderful. And again, at one point, at Temple Emmanuel, they honored me as Eshet Chayil, and that's when my daughter Ronnie decided to put me on Facebook. So this was the way for a lot of people to get to me. Otherwise, I had no idea. And since then, all of a sudden, I discover every once in a while I get notes and pictures on Facebook and dialogue that I have from campers of the 1970s, 1980s that said, yes, of course we remember you. And so I had also, this is the best reward you can think of. It's just wonderful throughout the years.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Nili, from my experience starting in 1975 with musical production and really never leaving because I went from acting for a few years to lights and sound and a little bit of music with Paul and a little bit of assistant directing. It was one of the seminal moments in my life. I'd like to take you back to what was, for at least for me, a significant moment in 1975 during the leadership session. I think it was the first time you had done Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Gimling Hilltop Camp comes down for a wonderful evening of musical production, and we start the overture, and I'm getting ready to come out. I think I was playing Judah, and the lights go out. So I wanted to get from you, what do you remember of that?
Oh God, do I remember that? It was, you're tense because it was one of my first major production. And so you're nervous, you're tense, your muscles, everything is tight. You're starting, and I remember it's starting and blackout. That's one very unhappy experience that I had, of course. But in a way, actually, Steve Brewer solved it. My performances always were just for Camp Hess Kramer's campers and staff. Steve Brewer, because of that, decided that we will do the performance Saturday night. And this was the first time that Hilltop Camp came down to watch this production. And so, in a way, he turned the very unhappy situation to one of the most exciting thing, that you have both camps coming together. And so this was the wonderful thing about knowledge, the sense of teaching that Steve Boer had, that had to turn it somehow to something not only positive, but something greater than what it would have been had we performed on the Friday just for CHK.
Just to talk about the excitement that there was, and here I am, this is my first year at the leadership session, and I actually never got on stage, and I ended up standing right next to Rich Perlman, who was at the light board, who was saying, I know we didn't blow the entire camp. He's like, I did all the math. It worked. It wasn't us.
Oh,
So,
God.
but we got to do it the next night, and of course we did it again for Visitors Day that day, and it was just a magical time and a magical moment. Dan Shader playing Joseph was fantastic.
Yes.
It was just a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, thank you. And again, I'm so appreciative of all your memories and the way that I, impacted you one way or another, that you learned from this experience. And Paul, I must go back to, I saw when you started as a young kid, and that you were partly Schlepp and partly my music director, and I had to fight for you to be in my rehearsal, that they would let you go out of being a Schlepp. That took couple summers, I think.
It
But
did. It
but
did.
you enriched my production. There was something so special about what you added, Paul. And again, since I play the piano for many years, I certainly can appreciate it. When you were looking at the group, or when there was some sort of like a pause from one scene to another, you came with an original music. You continue playing. You looked at the actors, you look at the scene, and through your talent, your emotions, you got so involved that I heard the piano, and it was not just the score, the original score of Joseph. It was something that I wish I had every time I did a production. Once you left, I also had Uri Ophir, who was very good, but what you did, I have not found anywhere in any of the next productions that I had anywhere, whether it was Temple Emmanuel, whether it was Stephen S. Wise, whether it was actually Brandeis Bardini Institute that I worked for 10 summers, but I have not met such a creative composer such as you, that we worked together. It was phenomenal. So thank you. I gotta give you the reward for it.
There's a transition in being a musician from being a performer to being a member of a show. And in that role, essentially as an accompanist, your role is to support the person and the people who are up on the stage. And in classical music, there's a great tradition of pianists becoming accompanists and teaching that art to younger people, that you're not the center when you need to assume a more support role. And I, of course, as a pianist, I never studied the fine art of accompaniment, but the point is that I learned it naturally by on-the-job training working with you. So I know you and I are both crediting each other very much, but it's true that I learned to be an accompanist, on the job from your influence.
Wow.
But I want to remember, in the same way that Paul remembered Joseph and that performance, I very much remember when you brought Kazablan to camp, and I was in that. And I remember when you brought Yentl to camp, which I think was, before the movie and before it got so
Right,
popular.
it was before the
Talk a
movie.
talk a little bit about those shows.
Which one do you want first?
Talk about Casablanca. That was first, I think.
Well, Kazablan was first. Kazablan, actually, I had to translate it to English. There was no Kazablan at that time in English, so that was another project of mine. I also needed to fit it more to here, to the kids and to this group of people and to participate. As you remember, we had usually 40 people in the production. So I had to find parts to them, either through dance, either through dialogue, through the uh, creating characters. Casablanca was amazing. And the reason that I liked it was, first of all, I had a wonderful cast, cast, and wonderful accompanists, and which made it very special that I really could take it quite forward, quite far because of that ability. Casablanca I liked because it had a message. It had a message that at that time was very important. They're like anti-discrimination. In Israel, I remember myself as I grew up, there were Ashkenazis and there were Sephardic, and Yemenite. They a group by itself, and the country at that time, the Yemenite, the Sephardic, were second class citizen. And when Kazablan came, it really brought a lot of commotions, and then I think this has actually started some kind of movement to really get these people, even the people that were Sephardic people or Yemenite that wanted to go to the government. There was no such thing. It was basically, from either Ashkenazi or Ashkenazi descent. And so when I brought Kazablan here, of course you remember, but just to mention that briefly, the story is that a Hungarian family, Ashkenazi, of course, had a daughter who was, at around marriage age. I don't know how old she was. And then she started dating a Sephardic Jew. And the parents saw it as this is the worst that could happen to their daughter. They believed in another Hungarian shoemaker or something like this, who wanted also to date their daughter. And apparently, Kazablan, the Sephardic guy, I think he was I think from Morocco.
Moroccan. Yeah.
He, discovered that the Hungarian stole money from the Feldman. These were the Feldman family. But they all the father blamed it on Kazablan because he's the Sephardic. And then, of course, the end story is it was not true, that Kazablan actually found the money that he collected for some good reason. Kazablan found the money, the whole box in the shoemakers, in the Hungarian person. And so that was the one time showing not all Ashkenazis are nice, not all Sephardic are nice. Some are good, some are not so good, depends where. And still today, you say, there are some Israelis that are good, some Israelis that are not so good, some Jews that are good, some good Jews that are not so good, cause lots of problems. But that's life. It's in every nation, every source.
Very true. I can tell you about another show, To Live Another Summer, to Pass Another Winter. And for whatever reason there is, I still have, and I wasn't in that show, but I think I was working as Schlepp and everything. but I can remember the dance moves that you had created for the entire cast, and to sing, be able to sing and to dance and to project, all of those things. And every once in a while that will roll through my head and just give me a wonderful smile.
Well, I'm so glad, Paul. I
Yeah.
mean, this is, as I said again, this is a reward of a teacher, mentor, to see that there is a good positive influence on a person's life. This was a very important project. Again, it came, this show came right after the war, after the Six-Day War. And of course, Israelis felt very good and also arrogant in the matter, and so is the musical.
Hmm.
But again, it taught, it came with a message. Although we are a small nation, although we are young, we can fight against the largest enemy and win. Just like David and Goliath, here is a modern way. Actually, this is what happened. As Israel became the David, and Goliath is always the Arab nation. Was actually Goliath was from Palestine, and that Palestina at that time, Palestina was a small area in on the left, on the seashore, on the west, the southwest of Israel. Actually, after the Six-Day War, Israel begged Egypt to take that land, and Egypt knew that this land, their trouble, and they did not want to take that piece of land. And Israel ended up with, with this Gaza Strip. That was a story of To Live Another Summer. Here we are, and we carry with us the whole, the Holocaust has just happened, and we could fight our large enemies, and we could win, and Israel will stay forever, which is actually, this is my name. My name, Nili, means Netzach Israel lo yeshaker, which means Israel will stay forever. And so my father, who was a Zionist, who came to Israel, called his daughter by the name of Nili, Netzach Israel lo yeshaker. And this was the message. We won, and we always will win, regardless of how small
That
we
was
are.
part 2 of our 3-part conversation with Nili Kosmal, who taught Israeli dancing and musical production at Camp Hess Kramer for 18 summers. Please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss when part 3 comes out in 2 weeks, where we talk about Nili's family, the most famous childbirth that almost happened at camp, and her friendship with Arts and Crafts Director Jerry Schusterman, and more. Don't forget to mark your calendars for camp's upcoming events in Carlsbad, including Leadership Night on Saturday, July 25th, and the Back to Our Roots event at Camp Hess Kramer in Malibu on Sunday, August 30th. And if you haven't heard from camp in a while, you can update your contact information by visiting wbtcamps.org/alumni/update your info, all one word, which is linked down in the description. And that's how you'll be able to hear about registration when it opens for all these events. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.